Good morning. It is wonderful to be here in this amazing community. I'm honored to be speaking. Our center is a remarkable place, generous, committed, creative, and we are thriving. Earlier this week, 4 of our regular staff members were all away at the same time, and all was well, thanks in part to our amazing volunteers. Everything that was ours to do was accomplished, with time left over to send prayers and congratulations to our AIDS Life Cycle team, which completed its ride yesterday. Yeah. That's the Center for Spiritual Living, Santa Rosa. Our focus this month is freedom from discord. With all that's going on in our nation and in the world, it sometimes seems like that's a grand illusion. Some of you may know there was a mass shooting in Orlando overnight. And I would like to take a moment to pause for all of those that were affected by that event. Even in this tender moment, we believe the ultimate goal of life is freedom from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. In preparing for this talk, I read that statement several times and began to contemplate it. I invite you to close your eyes again for a moment and let the words and their meaning settle into you as I read it. We believe the ultimate goal of life to be complete emancipation from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. As I sat with this principle, I began to wonder, what enslaves me? What stories do I tell myself that aren't really who I am? Where am I not at peace with myself? Suddenly, it wasn't about the state of the world. It was about the state of my consciousness, my thoughts, my beliefs, my stories. Before moving into the heart of this talk, as within, so without, I need to read a bit of fine print. In the early days of religious science or science of mind, one would sometimes hear the question, asked with just a tiny bit of attitude, "What's in your consciousness?" The implication was that any challenge in a person's life was all their fault, that somehow what they were thinking led to their issues, no matter what. We blame people for their diseases, for their relationship status, everything not working in their life. No one was immune from this judgment. Given their perfect consciousness, ministers and practitioners were expected to be especially healthy, wealthy, wise, which we aren't all the time. Don't get me wrong. Our thoughts are an important element of our experience of life. And that's not all that's going on. We live in a culture that has a human race consciousness, what we now call group mind, that is in the background influencing us. Beliefs like, no pain, no gain. It's no fun getting old. Or, that's just the way it is. Whatever it is. These beliefs are all around us, and our circumstances, where we were born, our family, our environment, these too have an influence. Questions like, what was I thinking? What is my story? What do I believe? These are important questions, but not for the purpose of blaming ourselves or pointing fingers at our consciousness, for the purpose of being curious about who we are. Greg Lavoie, author of Vital Signs, our October recommended reading, says this about curiosity. One of the shining qualities that heroes possess is the willingness to be educated by all things. They learn from the most impressive variety of people and experiences, the wise and the foolish, the obvious and the inconceivable, the living and the dead, the things they love and the things they hate, children and animals and the voluble energetics of nature, all the thumpings and all the bounties they earn from the world. To be curious, to observe ourselves, to wake up and choose our thoughts. This is the value of questions about our beliefs and our stories. Without such questions, we simply drift along in human race consciousness, in group mind. This is powerfully summarized in the Science of Mind textbook. Let's read it together. The sum total of all erroneous human belief binds until the individual mentally lifts himself above the law of averages into the higher law of spiritual individualism. We are free to choose our thoughts. We have that freedom. Why is choosing our thoughts important? From the Science of Mind statement, what we believe. We believe that we are surrounded by this creative mind which receives the direct impress of our thought and acts upon it. What we think does make a difference. Creative mind acts upon our thought. When our thoughts are jumbled, filled with doubts, second guesses, fears, judgments, there is discord within, and that does show up in our outer experience. As within, so without. Sometimes the best example to illustrate a point is from my own experience. What I am about to share shows the ways in which environment, culture, and my beliefs came together to create a story to make sense of things. All of us human beings do this, create meaning, make sense of our lives with stories. Some stories are good, others not so much. The good news is that all of us can rewrite our stories. We can bring to awareness thoughts that don't serve us by being curious and open, listening and inquiring within. Curious, caring, not judging. So, some years ago, I was in a spiritual enrichment class on soul writing at the Redding Center for Spiritual Living that loved me up and launched me into this journey into ministry. The workshop was somewhat like the monthly writing group that Reverend Janet offers here. We would take a topic and write for 10 minutes in class without pause. If nothing came to mind, I would just write, I don't know what to write, this is silly, blah, 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 until eventually more words came. The assignment that morning was to write about a negative belief we had about ourselves. Mine was the belief that I was a fraud. When I explained this belief to people, I told them it came from my ability to get good grades without a lot of effort. That I was a fraud because people admired me for grades I hadn't worked hard to get. Remember? No pain, no gain. And so, in my life, this story had me constantly trying to prove that I wasn't a fraud, that I was legit. In the writing workshop, after a brief centering prayer, I put pen to paper, having no idea what to expect. In that 10 minutes, from deep within, Spirit wrote that I actually believed I was a fraud, not because of my easy grades, but because people didn't know that good little Tara was actually a bad girl. I hadn't any idea that that very old childhood story was there. It had literally never come up. That story was the reason I believed I was a fraud, that I wasn't the good little girl everyone praised. Of course, oh my goodness, yes. Tears of recognition and laughter at that belief. Finally, it had come to light. Once hidden beliefs are uncovered, they have much less power. We can then choose a different story, release old stuff, see ourselves as the perfect, creative expressions of spirit that we are. Again, from Ernest Holmes, writing in the Science of Mind textbook. Man comes into this life subjective to the race consciousness and to his own environment. He unfolds his own personality and begins to create new subjective thought. He thinks and observes, draws certain conclusions and deductions, and incorporates them within his mentality until, at last, they also become part of the relative cause of his objective existence. Healing, then, is accomplished by uncovering, neutralizing, and erasing false images of thought, and letting the perfect idea reflect itself through subjective mind into the body. What Holmes is saying is that at our birth and in childhood, our experience and understanding of life are based on the values of human race consciousness, group mind, and where we live. As we grow up, we think about and contemplate our life, becoming more and more individualized through the creative power of our thought. What we focus on grows. Those patterns of thought cause effects in our life experience. Not all our thoughts, nor our environment, nor group mind are positive. Some of them limit us, trap us, shut down our possibilities. Healing and wholeness come when we recognize those distortions of truth, thoughts and beliefs that don't serve us, and remember that we are perfect, whole, complete. Before moving on to talk about the creative process, let's look at a couple more examples of the power of our thoughts and the stories that they create. Our perception of time is a good example. Some of you undoubtedly heard in class or in science discussions on NPR that time is a construct. There is no reality to time. That's an academic recognition that we tell a story about time, a story that has a function and creates order in our life. There's another, perhaps more practical example of the vagaries of time. I suspect that some of you use to-do lists, checking off things as you get them done. And perhaps sometimes when you look at your to-do list, it seems like it's going to be impossible to get everything done, that there simply isn't enough time. Have any of you had that experience? Yeah, me too. Gandhi's advice for days when there's too much to do and apparently not enough time: sit in meditation an hour more than usual. If you do that, or even if you just sit in affirmative prayer for a bit, recognizing and remembering that everything happens in divine timing, it does. What didn't seem possible gets done. Time shows up when needed. Someone cancels an appointment or shifts a deadline. Things change when we let go of the story that there isn't enough time. And one final example of how our thoughts affect our reality. I share this story with the permission of my friend. She was juggling the demands of work, parenting, and the care needs of a very ill mother. One day she described her life as surfing, as trying to ride each wave as it came in, struggling to keep her balance, to stay on top of the waves. She was overwhelmed and exhausted. I asked her whether perhaps it was time to stop surfing, to come into shore, to simply rest and watch the ocean. From this vantage point, she could be with her children, her mother, herself, peaceful, present, loving, appreciating what was, still doing what was hers to do, no longer struggling. My friend made that shift in her story. Her outer circumstances were essentially the same. Her experience of them was very different. So let's take a look at how the creative process of thought works, with insights from one of my favorite authors, Judge Thomas Troward. It was actually his Edinburgh lectures that helped me make sense of Ernest Holmes. Holmes' biographers note that Holmes was excited by Troward's writings because they provided the logical structure and philosophical basis for what he intuitively knew about spirit. By the way, if you're interested in learning more about Judge Troward, I'm teaching a class on this rational and mystical man very soon. The Science of Mind teaching symbol can be useful to talk about the creative process. How many of you have seen this symbol here at the center? Those of you who haven't noticed it, this particular one is by the double entry doors out in the social hall. The symbol expresses a great deal in very simple terms. First, the circle itself represents the infinite, that spirit that is beyond time, beyond form, beyond our wildest imaginings, unlimited. This thing itself is the nature of infinite good. If you look closely, you'll see that there are 3 sections to the circle, 3 layers included in the whole. The first section represents divine mind, spirit, that which creates by contemplating its I amness. There's an idea to boggle the mind. The sort of thing that Thomas Troward might grab onto and say, let's go gently within and get to know what it is to contemplate the I amness. In fact, I invite you in the coming week to take time to be still, to close your eyes, to feel into your essence, your heart, your intuition, into that sanctuary beyond individual thoughts and mental efforting. Feel into and sense the divine within, good, spirit, the one. One of the images I often return to for a sense of the infinite is to sit at the beach, up on a sand dune where I can overlook the ocean. As I simply breathe and watch the ocean, I notice that the ocean too is breathing. We are one in that breath. We are one in all that is. Divine mind, spirit, reflecting, desiring to know itself, to experience more fully the aliveness, the uniqueness, the possibilities, thinks into subjective mind, that middle layer. This is subjective, creative mind, the law, which says yes without judgment, without argument, responding to spirit's thought. The second section of the symbol represents that responsive place of yes, the law, the creative mind that acts upon the impress of thought. The result of contemplation, of planting a seed thought, is manifestation, expression in form. All of creation, including us spiritual beings having a human experience in space and time, is an expression of this one, this divine good. This third section of the symbol stands for manifest creation, the outer world of time and form, effects. The V of the symbol represents the activity of the creative process, from spirit's thought into form through the action of the law. The subjective mind that is subject to responds to universal mind. And since we are expressions of that same divine essence, that universal mind, that law responds to us as well. For many years when I looked at this symbol, and by the way, you can find a lot of variations of the symbol at the back of the textbook, I saw the V of the creative process as going one way, spirit coming into form through law, or our thoughts coming into form in the world. A year or so ago, in a class on Troward and the creative process, Reverend Kim brought forward a different interpretation. Among Troward's central concepts are the ideas of involution and evolution. The V of our teaching symbol provides a wonderful graphic to explain them. Involution is spirit's involving itself, planting the seed of an idea into the creative medium. Thought into form in human experience, the left hand of the V. Evolution completes the creative process. As we spiritual beings in human form awaken, we consciously impress ideas into the creative substance of the law, remembering more and more who we are, recognizing that essence of spirit that lives within us, expresses as us at all times. There's a lovely etymological interpretation of evolution in the Merriam-Webster dictionary online. Words from the Latin volvere have something to do with turning. To evolve or grow or develop out of something else is to unroll from a source. Evolution in the creative process, the right side of the V, has nothing to do with the survival of the fittest. As expressions of spirit, good, we are fit and perfect from the beginning. Evolution has nothing to do with flukes of nature or random genetic mutations. Evolution in Troward's sense, as it occurs in the creative process, is the upswing of the V. It is humanity's realization of its inner essence, responding to spirit's yearning for our full blossoming to the truth of who we are. From spirit into form, from inspired form into the recognition of spirit. Creative process is that whole, that circulating, live, vital process. Spirit alive and present in all things, formed and unformed. We are a reflection of divine mind. We are an expression of the one, with its infinite possibilities to be uncovered and individualized as we are. Let's close as we began, looking at what it is like to be free of all discord of every nature. In our textbook, page 451, Holmes describes the cosmic mind in action. The cosmic mind is neither wishy-washy nor willy-nilly. It is positive, certain of itself, and sure of the outcome. This is freedom from all discord of every nature. We are in this cosmic mind, and it expresses in, as, and through each and every one of us. Let us affirm this truth about ourselves by reading together this affirmation. As an expression of the cosmic mind, I am neither wishy-washy nor willy-nilly. I am positive, certain of good, and sure of the outcome. In that clarity, let us pray. Positive, sure of good, certain of the outcome. In this moment, I know there is only one thing happening here. That is Spirit, the divine, expressing in, through, and as each one of us. That yearning toward good is alive, vital, and expressive. That knowing the good comes forth in each and every being on this planet as we remember more and more in each moment our divine essence. We trust, we know, we let this being free, for that is our heritage. That is who and what we are. We believe that the goal of all life is the emancipation from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. In this knowing, I know that all is well. I release this word into the law which says yes and yes again with gratitude and grace. And together we say, and so it is.